Greetings, everyone, and welcome to episode 18 of the Stranded live stream. We've been quiet for a while, but we had an excellent reason to come back to announce and celebrate and rejoice in the launch of two new signature guitars, the long-awaited Per Nilsson Singularity model and the Plini neck-through. We're still working through some technical issues on Plini's side, so you'll have to bear with us. But we at least have Per. Good morning to you.
Good morning. Good morning.
I'm happy to hear your voice, and I think we also hear your guitar.
Well, what's happening here?
Awesome.
Sounds nice and crisp.
It does indeed. It's I guess that's what we're here to talk about. It does indeed sound very nice and crisp. Um,
Yeah, man.
we can keep talking while Pliny is hopefully working through his technical issues. Oh, there he is. Except it's just a blank screen at the moment. Well, Per, tell us about your beautiful guitar.
My beautiful guitar has been in the works for many years now. It all started in 2013 when we first met at the NAMM show in Anaheim, California. And
Do you guys hear me?
Pretty,
now we
yes.
hear your voice at least.
Why can't I hear you?
We don't know. You should. Keep talking, Per.
Well, maybe we shouldn't go as far back as 2013, but we did the first Singularity that was out for a few years, which we were happy about. But I guess as things progressed for Strandberg guitars and the operation grew, and we were able to finally implement some of the ideas that we weren't really able to do with the first model. We managed to make my custom neck thing happen. And I hear Pliny.
Pliny, we hear you. He doesn't hear us.
You're live on the air, buddy.
Man, this is a disaster.
Yeah. Snap, crackle, and pop.
2021 and we can't figure out a live stream. Man.
Yeah.
Well, keep.
I actually done a few streams lately with no incident at all. So
Nice. How about you, Pliny? Can you hear us now?
I can hear you now. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Do you
Can we
hear
hear
the
your guitar? No.
no.
Damn.
So we're not entirely at mission accomplished.
No.
Are you able to lo-fi it?
I can lo-fi it for sure.
Just blast the guitar out in your room.
Yeah. Can you give me a further 1 to 2 minutes.
Yes, we
Okay.
can.
Be right back.
All right. Uh, Good morning, Per. I love you, man. Says Honor, your true inspiration. Um, but getting back to your guitar, I think so that the original Singularity, one of the big things for you was like to make it visually distinctive. So we went with this swirl finish, and then um, the other requirement was, I mean, you're a big True Temperament fan, the squiggly frets. Um, and I think I had you muted for a second. Say something.
Yep.
Yeah. Kaushik is saying we can't hear Per. Kaushik, can you confirm that you hear him now?
La 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 la
I
la.
think you should be fine.
Perfect.
Yeah, so True Temperament was one requirement, but then the other thing back in those early days was that it was important for you to have it affordable for your fans and within reach, so to speak. So
Yeah.
we actually enlisted a different factory to build your guitar compared to others. But then um, anyone who's in the business knows how hard it is to get quality swirls made for whatever reason. It's like voodoo, it seems.
Mhm.
So we kind of stopped production for that guitar for a long time, and then we announced this last year, and it's one of the first True Temperament um, guitars in the world produced at a factory, which was pretty cool, but also came with a lot of delays, which has put us here, and now it's finally done. You've been playing it for a while, but it's finally available for purchase. Um, so yeah, tell us a little more about the what makes it unique.
Well, I think I've had the guitar for just a little bit more than a year, uh, and now I don't really play any of the other guitars, even though they are nice as well. But this one is something else, uh, and I mean the True Temperament thing is really like visually striking for people, uh, and people who has never encountered True Temperament are a bit, they feel a bit weird about it. Like, what's going on there? Aren't your guitar gonna sound out of tune? Or are you using some sort of microtonal system? Uh, but no, that's not the thing. Uh, it's supposed to give you even better intonation, like close to perfect. Uh, but the thing that really makes this guitar unique is the custom neck profile that we've actually been working on that ever since we first started on the first Singularity prototype back in the day, uh, and the neck profile has been through a number of iterations, and it was never really possible before to put it in production. So it it only was a custom thing on my some of my guitars. I've also played the more regular Endornic. So finally, Strandberg managed to put it in production, which is really amazing. And I guess like after these years of having the more affordable model, I come from a background of playing sort of, inexpensive guitars, and I've you know, I've never been, a total guitar snob or anything. I just played anything that you put in my hands. Uh, and the first model we did was really nice and really playable and sounded great. But finally, I felt like I when I had the chance to do something really special and outrageous with the new custom neck profile and everything, I started reconsidering. And then, well, it's not like I wanted to make the most expensive guitar ever, but I wanted to sort of explore that other side of things.
Yeah, we
So
did kind of pull out all the stops on this model and
yeah,
Lundgren pickups.
so yeah, and that's also a thing when I got the call for the Meshuggah gig. Uh, the first guy I called after having talking to the Meshuggah guys was I called Ola up and like, hey man, something kind of cool came up. Can you fix me an 8 string? And we started talking and like, what do you want? What kind of, what do you need for your 8 string? And I was like, I probably should have the same pickups as the Meshuggah guys use, and they use Lundgrens. So so just put Lundgrens in them, the M8s, and it sounded fabulous.
Mm.
And then when we started talking about making the production models, I wanted to keep doing the M8 in the 8 string, and then we started thinking about what to do with the 7 string. And the 7 string is for me like the 8 string model is tailored to be, the perfect instrument for the Meshuggah gig, and the 7 string is to be like a much more versatile instrument, and the pickups has to reflect that because the M series Lundgrens are pretty extreme. Uh, so in the 7 string, we instead put the modern vintage humbuckers in it, uh, which have a sort of sweeter sound. It works much better for lead tones, especially. Sounds really like creamy and nice, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
Uh, and then Lundgren, he made a custom single coil just for me. Thank you, Lundgren. Um, yeah. So the pickup configuration makes it really versatile. I can have uh, I can have all the combinations where you can have like one coil from here and the single coil, and uh, like on a Strat, the second and fourth position on a Strat, which is something I really like for clean sounds. Um, and we used to have the swirl finish, and when we changed the production and the factory that would make these guitars, and they weren't like they I don't think they really had done a lot of swirls, so we felt a little bit,
No.
maybe we shouldn't, try to, force them to do something. That's just gonna be, another obstacle in the way. I mean, it took a long time before we could make True Temperament, really come into production.
Mhm. Yeah.
So we didn't need another obstacle. So then we started thinking about something else to do, but still sort of, carry the same kind of aesthetics with us, but do something else. And
Yeah, and
then,
also make sure that it's something that's unique for every guitar produced. So
yeah,
really,
yeah,
really unique
exactly.
look.
So while it's a basswood body, the top is swamp ash. That's yeah, they sandblasted or whatever they call it.
Hmm.
So yeah, it's the wood pores that are filled with color, and so since all woods are unique, this every top is going to be unique. So it's sort of like a yeah, an organic swirl.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
going
it's
going
very
to
cool.
the neck profile, um, maybe you could explain the neck profile, Olaf, because you have all the fancy big words.
Well, essentially, the original Endurneck and the Endurneck that's on all our guitars has this distinct trapezoid, the cut-off pyramid shape with just slightly rounded off corners, and it's quite off center, so it's shifted upwards at the far end and shifted downwards at the near end. But the changes that we made for you was that first of all, it's a little bit thinner than the regular Endurneck, but then instead of having it shifted dramatically upwards at the far end, it's more centered. Um, and it's been rounded off quite a bit. The corners are much larger radius, so it feels more like a conventional neck at that far end.
Yeah. So while I really, like the original Endurneck, there were a few things where, uh, especially when I play stretchy stuff, when I go into something like this, then suddenly the thumb moves down, and for me, I needed things to be a little bit smoother to accommodate for playing like that.
Mm.
Uh, yeah, and also, I mean, I come from a background of not only cheap guitars but guitars that have like insanely thin necks. Uh, so at first, the Endorneck felt a little bit thick for me. Uh, so now it's actually it's actually not that thin compared to some of the crazy thin Ibanez's or whatever,
Mhm.
but it feels thin.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, that's the exact objective. That by being thicker, it sounds better, but also it produces less tension on your hand and wrist and everything. And but the shape kind of tricks you into experiencing it as a thinner neck than it really is.
yeah,
Let's see if we can patch in Pliny. Do we have audio?
Maybe. I don't know.
Yes.
Do we?
Yeah.
Do we
Yeah.
have guitar?
Yes.
I went
Is,
as lo-fi
is
as
it,
possible.
so it's the room audio now for your guitar?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad
Well, I
I,
mean,
yeah.
viewers, if you're joining us late, we've struggled with some technical issues, and the hi-fi interview mode that we were trying to use didn't work out anyway. So now we're on Skype, so your sound will be butchered anyway. So we won't hear any difference. Um, but great to have you with us, Pliny.
It's the perfect opportunity for me to demonstrate how great this guitar
With some
sounds.
technical issues. I
Right.
know. Hi-fi. So, what's up with you? You're in middle of summer, and we are in the deepest winter. It was minus 20 outside here this morning.
Oh. And yeah, and I guess well, it must be 20 past 9 in the morning.
Yes.
It looks about as bright as it is at 7:20 p.m. and I'm guessing it's not going to get much brighter and then it'll be nighttime again.
Yeah, well, the light situation is improving, but it's serious winter.
Fun times.
So, tell us a little bit about your new guitar. Paris told us about his seven string. We still have to talk about the eight string, but yours is also a new variation on your existing signature guitar.
Yeah, I guess the most exciting parts are these things, which should be looking nice and shiny, and this part. which is
Yeah.
so. I guess I've had this for over a year now, and I got to take it on the last tour that I played last year. Recorded my whole album with it, and I guess the technical term is that it's the best. It's like, I don't know if I've told you, I've told the Strandberg USA guys, but this specific guitar is the best Strandberg that I've ever played or had. It's just got all the, like the luck involved in pieces of wood. It's got all of that. And then like having my own pickups is amazing, and having the neck through is amazing for just the access at the back. So I had another one as well. I'm not sure if you can see it. It's down there somewhere. And I played it for a while, and it's almost equally amazing. But for some reason, I go back to this one for really like a reason that I can't exactly explain. But then comparing the other one to my previous guitars makes them seem like sort of prototypes for this. So I guess it's interesting because we've done, I guess, 3 different signature models now. There's the original one, which we did with Paul as well. And then that sort of improved into the bolt-on Boden model. And then that's improved again. So I'm getting like a real taste of what I get, just the whole journey of improving guitars is like. And it's like when we first met and first started talking, I wasn't that interested in guitars. And I think any guitar that was good would be good enough. But now you've spoilt me, and I get to start figuring out things I like. So it's interesting. I'm currently in love with it, but now I think I'm going to have to find something that I don't like about it just to make you do something else.
Well, you've started dabbling with 7 strings.
Yeah. I don't know the 7 string well enough to know what I'd want to do with one, but I guess I'm going to rapidly figure it out just to make you make me one.
Per, what's your advice to Plini for learning the 7 string?
I don't think I have any good advice. Just jump into the deep end of the pool. Right? That's the way to do it.
Yeah. And you recently released a playthrough video, Plini, of one of the songs from the new album where you do play a 7 string. And sounds pretty good.
Yeah, I guess the only way that I've found that helps me figure out how to play a 7 string is by trying to write music with it. And that song's not the best example because there's a lot of just the lowest string. So it's almost just a 7th string guitar instead of a 7 string guitar. But yeah, messing around with it's been fun.
Yeah. Well, back to this guitar then. So the pickups we're talking about are the Michael Frank designed pickups that we put in several models, and the neck through guitars in particular. And you tweaked the pickups slightly for your signature guitar. They're based on the original model of pickups. But then what did you change specifically? Do you ever remember what you tweaked?
I remember we did tweak things. I don't remember specifically what, because I was with you and we were at Strandberg USA with Michael, and I remember playing the pickups. I know I wanted something changed in the high end of the bridge pickup. I don't remember exactly what, but I think something to sort of just round it out a little bit more because I like a pretty warm bridge pickup. And then I was messing around with the pickups with a 5-way switch and found some characteristics that I liked the best in that I wanted to incorporate into just the middle position of a 3-way switch. And then we went away to Sweetwater for a few days and came back, and he rewired the pickups and installed them in the guitar. So I guess the main difference from the original pickups is a slightly warmer bridge pickup, and it's using some pickup magic that I don't understand, so that a split coil middle position sort of sounds how I want it to sound.
Yeah. Yeah, it's all to do with keeping in line with the way that pickups are traditionally made. So they're kind of an anachronism or a contradiction, these pickups, because they rely on a lot of concepts from the most traditional pickup design ever, which is like the starting point for Michael and everything. But at the same time, they're the most modern pickups you could ever imagine, and they have a lot of different technical solutions. But to accomplish this like tradition and do what you wanted to do means this reverse wind, reverse polarity to get a hum canceling in the middle position. And I think there was some voodoo involved to make that happen. But it's a lot of work to develop new pickups, as I think you can attest to.
Yeah, and a lot of work to develop a guitar, because the things I want changed are things that I think of in 1 or 2 minutes, and then there's a whole production line of stuff that needs to happen.
Yeah.
Which I guess I'm thankful for.
And this, I think this Per kind of touched on that subject too. That it's a long journey, and it's an intense dialogue that takes a lot of like elapsed time for it to happen. So the discussions are really quick, but then to actually make it happen and shipping samples for evaluation, placing an order for production, actually make it happen. So very long lead time. But the cool thing is that, I mean, both of you play 100% off the production line guitars. So we haven't like built them especially for you, except I guess you both play like early samples, but they're made at the factory, and if someone buys the guitar, it is literally as identical to your actual guitars as humanly possible.
Yeah, something that I find funny is when people ask me if my guitar is a production guitar, because I guess a lot of people assume that the guitars we play are some special made in a secret basement, like ultimate edition. And then the thing I find funny is I don't think I even own a proper production model. I think all I have are prototypes before they hit production and like unsold ones that I wanted to try out. So I'm still sort of waiting to get a real Strandberg.
No, but they are, except they're like the first ones.
Yeah, like the approved pre-production.
Yeah. But it's it's cool. Per, you're holding your 8 string. Tell us about that.
Yeah, this is the one and only 8 string in the world that would work for me. Because as I told you that when I got the Meshuggah gig, first person I called was Ola Strandberg, and it's because I actually had an 8 string that wasn't a Strandberg. and it was a good enough guitar for most people, I guess. But I didn't really enjoy playing it very much. It had a 28 scale, and it was not a multi-scale, and it was just horrible to play leads on. It was pretty fine for all the riffings, but to play leads on a 28 scale, that's just going from 25 and a half to 28 it's torture. So I wanted a multi-scale guitar. Uh, so this one has 26 and a half to 28. 26 and a half is still a little bit big, maybe, but it's just on the it works for me.
And the difference doesn't become too extreme between the
Yeah, exactly.
different scales.
Yeah. So, and talking about going from 6 to 7 strings, uh, for me it's not a big change because it still feels like you're playing the same instrument. It still feels like you're playing in the guitar. It's just like you have more range. But when you go and play an 8 string where suddenly you have a 28 on the lower side, um, it doesn't really feel like a standard guitar anymore because everything is bigger. It doesn't sound the same. Uh, so my 7 string sounds like a really good sounding guitar, and this the 8 string feels like a hybrid instrument, and I think this goes for pretty much every 8 string I've ever played. So it's not unique for this, but um, so and for me it the custom neck profile we did was probably even more important on the 8 string version, where because everything is so much harder when it's bigger, and the neck is it's one more string, so it's much more area to cover with your hands, much more stress on your hands and your muscles and your joints and everything. So I'm really happy with this. And for the 8 string, we didn't bother putting a single coil in. Like I I probably could have done even without the neck humbucker, because when I use this, it's like all high gain sounds, pretty much, and the bridge pickup. So
Yeah. We actually have a question here. Jonathan says, what did the guys in Meshuggah say when you dropped the other brand with the Ibanez headstock and got one without headstock at all? Uh, is I know a lot of people get like it's not acceptable to play a guitar that looks out of the ordinary. Uh, at least a number of years ago, I think that's probably going away. But have you ever had a reaction about like playing a headless guitar in a band like Meshuggah?
yeah, sure. Even from within the band. Uh, first, I must say that I mean the guys in the band, they were from the start. They were very cool with letting me play whatever guitar I wanted. There's no there's no one telling me what to wear, or you know how to really do anything. They let me play all the leads. I get to improvise and do my own thing within their music, and no one's everyone is giving me a lot of freedom, and I think everyone has recognized how good this guitar sounds. There's even a there's even a part. Uh, I mean, and I mean Fredrik and Morten, they got their own Ibanez signature guitars that are. I haven't played them a lot, but they are probably splendid, and they are expensive, great instruments. I would suppose. But there's a part in a song. It's a song called Lethargica, where there's this part of the song where it's just clean guitars, and Morten and I, we play like one note. He plays a note, and then I play a note, and then he plays a note. So it's like a droning thing. And the first note I hit is the low B or F. Sorry, that one. And when I hit that note, it's like the entire stage starts rumbling, and it's just it resonates, and it's so sustained and full sounding. And I mean, they've been touring and playing this song for many years, so everyone has heard, what it sounded like before, which probably sounded really good. But like when they hear this instrument, like clong, everyone has been like, "What's happening?" Everyone's using in-ears, so everyone's like, "Oh, holy crap! Did something break? Like, is it an earthquake?" So I found that really interesting, because some people have the idea that it's maybe it's look like the guitars look a bit smaller than regular guitars because there's not the headstock, and you got these things carved out, So people would suppose that there won't be the same sustain or tone or bass response or whatever from compared to a regular guitar. But that's like absolutely not true. And speaking of the 8-string being a kind of different instrument than 6 and 7 strings, is I feel like the bass response and the resonance of the 8-string is very different from the 7-string. It's like the low notes, it feels like playing a grand piano or so. Yeah.
Plini, I don't know if I've like ever asked you this or heard from someone. Like, did you ever play in like a regular band where you were just a guitarist?
Not really. I played in intervals for a couple of tours, and
Yeah.
that was really fun actually. I can't remember. I think for one of the tours, Aaron played a Strandberg as well for a few songs.
Yeah.
But I remember that was one of those was the first tour I ever had a guitar change in a set. It was the first time I played a 7-string live. It was a really like great excuse to do a bunch of things that I didn't normally get to do. And actually, I filled in for a guitarist for a radio performance recently where I was playing a 7-string as well. And I'm not sure if it's just because my attitude to things, as you can probably tell from me being late with no correct audio, is quite calm. But I know a lot of guitarists worry that guitar tones won't be the same with different guitars. So like, I can't remember who, but like once I was offered to play a different sort of guitar because they dialed in the tones for that guitar and everything like that. But I'm quite strict just for my own enjoyment that I just want to play my own Strandbergs. And I've never found playing through someone else's rig, my guitar sounds worse. It's only ever that my guitar sounds better than their guitar did through the tone that they dialed in for themselves, which I find quite funny. And I guess that means the guitars are pretty well sort of balanced to anything. Because anytime I've taken it and plugged it into someone else's rig or tried a new piece of gear, I never find any issues with like weird overtones or weird things that stick out. And actually that's something I remember now from when we were dialing in the pickups, is taming the low end of the low string, which after hearing Per's low F, maybe I shouldn't have done. but getting it sort of super even, so playing 6-string chords with gain, you'd hear every note pretty well. I remember Michael put a lot of effort into whatever magic goes into like the individual string clarity.
Yeah, yeah. But have you ever felt like a pressure from somewhere to use a more conventional looking guitar?
No, I don't know if it's fortunate or unfortunate, but I haven't been in many musical situations where I wasn't in control.
No, no, I can imagine. Yeah, it's yeah, I've heard stories about people like playing on cruise ships and having to look a certain way and not distract the audience, or not even tap your foot because it could distract someone, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I imagine you guys stay away from that.
Have you noticed since you started releasing guitars, fewer and fewer people being resistant to not having a headstock? Because I think the headstock jokes that I get are far fewer every year.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, back when I started, I would say 90% of any comments on a photo that was posted, it's like, oh, headless guitars are ugly. Oh, that looks stupid. So not even jokes, just hate. But no, I mean it's way more accepted now, and I guess in the early days of the company, or even before it was a company, when it was just a hobby, um, I shared the designs, so people they were allowed to use them under this Creative Commons license, and the reason for doing that was to uh, well, partly I wanted to establish some kind of collaborative development with other builders to just improve things. But the other reason was to increase the acceptance of headless guitars. And the more people that make them, the less resistance there will be. And now there are tons of brands obviously making headless guitars. So I think that's uh, it's accepted as a thing, which I guess is good for all of us. And then we just have to keep trying to make the best ones.
Yeah. Isn't that really telling that how many brands have picked up doing headless guitars?
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
maybe you didn't think they would, but finally they had to cave in, probably from, from just demand or uh, the fear of losing, market shares.
Yeah, yeah. Because I mean, it has a lot of obvious benefits that are appreciated by people. Um, so being more compact and more balanced, and you can make them lighter and it still works. Um, I still maintain that we make headless guitars and others make guitars without headstocks. That's like
Yeah.
our unique selling
Uh,
point.
I- I'm just waiting for, Fender and Gibson to start doing headless strats and Les Pauls.
Yeah, that'd be something. Well, I think we have kind of potato audio, but do you want to play something?
Should we have the most disjointed jam possible?
Yeah, why not?
I'll be curious to hear what that sounds like with the respective delays and
Yeah.
echoes, but
Do you want me to give you some chords, Pliny, and you can shred away on top of them?
I would love that.
Yeah. What kind of key do you want?
It doesn't matter. I probably won't be able to hear it anyway.
Probably not. So. Uh,
It kind of works actually. I'm shocked.
Yeah, I could just hear like fragments of chords. I hope I played something not too far off.
It sounded great to me when you played. It didn't sound so great when I played.
Yeah, it sounded
I
good.
I think Skype is optimized for one person to like talk at a time, so it kind of mutes. I wish we could have used like the original, slightly more hi-fi-ish technology that was the plan. But this worked above my expectation, I have to say. Very cool. Um, let's take a question. Everyone that's viewing, keep posting questions in the comment field, and we'll bring them in. I guess this is the most frequently asked questions. David says, "Hey Per, your signature guitars are one of the best looking guitars I've ever seen!" Exclamation point. How do you find playing through Temperament guitars in terms of slight dissonances with other guitarists that uses equal? Well, I guess they're not actually using equal temperament, but the more conventional
Yes.
guitars.
Well, thank you very much, David, and you're very good looking as well. Uh, yeah, I get that question a lot. Like, how would True Temperament work with other instruments? And I guess it depends on the context. If you use a TT equipped guitar together with other instruments that have sort of flawed intonation, um, and it's like if you play a lot of chords and the other guitar player don't play the same chords, maybe if you're the rhythm guy and you have someone playing leads, then it makes sense for you to have True Temperament, because then you're gonna sound really good. And it's like when you a lot of times when we play conventional frets, we're so used to sort of making really small and minute you know adaptations to not sound out of tune. It's just something you get used to as a guitar player. uh, Also, I find that when I used to play non-TT guitars, that there's some chord voicings that you're not gonna play. You're just gonna avoid them because you know that that one sounds really bad. So with True Temperament, that it opens that up, so you can actually play more things. But having that said, if you play the exact same parts and it's a lot of chord stuff, then I mean there is a chance that it might sound out of tune. Uh, but I find for a lot of applications, it actually helps to have one guitar that is more in tune, instead of having two guitars that are both slightly out of the. Because even like if you're two guitar players and you maybe you have a different scale length, or you use different string gauges, and you strike a guitar hard or soft, and it still can be differences in intonation between two instruments. And if you add more instruments, if you for example, if you have a lot of keyboards like we have in Scar Surgery, I mean, if you have a lot of keyboards and one guitar plays TT, then that's gonna sort of more live in the same world intonation wise, and then you have a second guitar player who for some stupid reason won't go to true temperament. Like, what's wrong with you? But then it's like then you only have one guy who's a little bit out.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how I would think about it.
Pliny, have you ever played a true temperament guitar?
I think I played one at NAMM. I'm not sure if that counts because I couldn't hear anything. And I played the one that I think you gave Tosin like the day that I met him. We went to his house. I think the first
Oh yeah,
NAMM that I
yeah,
ever went
yeah,
to.
yeah. Many years ago.
And I remember it was totally fine if I didn't look at it. It was only a little bit confusing if I looked at it, but I'm sure that goes away in a few minutes. Like the neck profile. I remember the first time I played a Strandberg, it was confusing, but only for 2 minutes, and then it's now everything else sucks.
Yeah. But I know some people think that those dissonances and that you're used to hearing are part of the soul of the guitar, and if you remove them, it's less lively or less interesting.
I would be inclined to think that you're better off starting with something that's in tune, and then if you have found a flavor in it being out of tune, then you do it deliberately than being forced to be out of tune.
Yeah.
I think I may have to experiment with True Temperament.
And I guess we have a related question. Do the TT frets affect what tuning the guitars can be put in? I guess this is I guess one of the reasons why people might stay away from true temperament, because to get the maximum effect, I mean they're obviously optimized for standard tuning, but they also compensate for string gauges and stuff like that. So there's some effect even when you go outside of standard tuning. But you can't go too crazy with like the intervals between strings, because then you're obviously even more out of tune than what you were in the beginning.
Yeah, I think that if you want to do like open chord tunings, chances are it won't work as well, or even be like really detrimental. But I remember talking to one of the True Temperament guys, and he told me that like you can tune up and tune down. Like if you tune down all the strings, you can do that quite a bit, before it really goes off. And for myself, I tune my guitars in standard or down a half step, all the strings, or I use drop tunings where I tune the lowest string down a whole step, and that seems to work,
Yeah.
really well. But I haven't really messed around with any other crazy things.
And Pliny, you play mostly tuned on a half step and like drop C sharp.
Yeah. I guess that's good to know, because I thought that it was calibrated so specifically for one tuning that it could be an issue for me, but I guess not. And now even more, I think I need to try it.
Yeah. We'll make it happen somehow. Uh, Daniel says, I don't know if this is easy to answer concretely. Hey Pliny, what's the biggest difference between your new Strandberg pickups and the SIR pickups in your previous model?
The biggest difference that I notice is that they're better and they sound more musical and balanced. And I think that's what I noticed between like the first pickups that we used into using the SIR pickups into using the original ones and then tweaking them, is that every change felt more balanced and more sort of ready to sound how I wanted it to sound. So, I mean, I know, so I can say for sure for me, they're more musical than any other pickups I've played because they'll sound how I want to sound, like with less effort. And I guess in a more tangible way, you might find the string separation is a little bit clearer, especially the more gain you use, and the bass response is more even on the low string with the neck pickup and the bridge pickup, both of them. So yeah, I guess it's maybe a little more fine-tuned in different ways overall.
Yeah, I mean, it's always tricky to talk about better or worse when it comes to music because whatever sound comes out is part of your expression. And I mean, distortion was born by, I mean, you'd simulated by people cutting into their speaker cones, shredding them. So how could that be better? But, but I mean, if the starting point is let's have like high quality sound that we can then shape downstream, then I think there is an objective conversation to be had about better, because then you can say it's more true to like it represents the frequencies more evenly and with better separation. And then if you want it to sound dirty, then just tweak your effects.
Yeah.
But no, I totally respect having an instrument that would objectively sound awful, but in the hands of a good player, it'll sound amazing anyway. And in the context of a song, it'll sound amazing. Uh, let's see. Is there any other good question? This is simple to answer. Is the finish of the neck of the Singularity gloss or matte? It is semi-gloss. So the answer is yes, it's gloss or matte. But we use the same, it's a very thin polyurethane finish on all our necks. So they will feel similar. So it's like satin or semi-gloss. What else can we talk about? Pliny, you recently released an album. Has that kept you occupied for this past year, or have you been doing something else?
No, it kept me occupied pretty much up until it was released, and then it sort of ceased to really exist in my life about a week later. I feel like releasing an album is now all hype and then no party. It's like the lead up is the event, and then the event is just the start of thinking of new things to do. But since then, I've been writing a bit more music, trying to figure out the 7-string, trying to figure out how to write music with vocals, and keeping mildly busy.
Very cool. And when you recorded the album, were you ever in the same room as your co-musicians, or was it all done like separately with whoever contributed?
No, when we did the drums, it was Chris who played drums in a studio and me just being there to give moral support. and Simon, who engineered and mixed it. Yeah, we got to all hang out for about a week. We were originally meant to go to a different studio in another state, but the border closed a few days before we meant to go. But luckily, we could book somewhere else local, and that was really fun. I had planned to visit Simon while he was mixing to revise stuff together in person, but it turned out that he nailed it so well that I didn't need to, which was disappointing because I was looking forward to sitting there and tweaking delay volumes for no reason. But he kind of just did it amazingly from the start and saved me the trip.
Yeah, because you've been working for a long time with these guys, so I guess you give them a lot of freedom to do their thing.
Yeah, with sort of similar thing with the drum parts, there was some back and forth, but at the same time, the level of like what they presented to me was like at the bare minimum it was amazing, and then on top of that it was like exciting new ideas and like variations and different things. So it was really easy, sort of positive thing to do.
Hmm. Well, since your music is so composed and like even the drum parts, when you send that off, I mean, how or do you even know how much that is, how closely does the actual like drumming come out later compared to your original vision? Does it change a lot?
I think the more that I've played with Chris and gotten to know his playing, the less I've given him direction because we've just sort of merged brains a little bit. So I can imagine what he would play without trying to program it for him. So there was a lot of stuff where I don't necessarily know how to program it like he would play it, but I know what he would do, or he would know when I try to explain what I want. He understands like my garbled fake music language, so he can do that sort of thing. So I think the amount of directions staying the same, but it doesn't need to be as verbalized because we kind of just share one consciousness for music, which is like merging over time.
But it sounds like you're almost writing with his playing in mind.
Yeah, that was, I guess, what was really fun writing this album compared to the EP before. The EP before I was writing without necessarily a particular drummer in mind. I was just writing music. But after spending a couple of years playing that stuff and other music with Chris, it wasn't so deliberate, but I think I came up with a lot of ideas that would specifically enable him to do the stuff that I like to hear him play, which was really cool.
Per, what have you been up to? I mean, you were supposed to be out touring a lot with Meshuggah, right? This past year.
Well, we had one tour, one big summer festival tour that got cancelled. Well, first it got postponed to this year, but that also got cancelled because all the festivals that were rescheduled for this year, some of them changed to a different month, so the entire thing just fell apart. But it's been pretty nice, you know. I've got a got to spend a lot of time with my family, my son. So it's good. I'm been recording and working a lot from my home studio. Done a few things. I played a lot on the British drummer Darby Todd's solo album that just came out. A lot of cool stuff on that one. I'm still working on the new Scar Symmetry album. I'm about to start working on a sort of secret project with an Australian drummer and a famous Swedish metal singer. Uh, I'm working on a new Kaipa album. I've had plans for some solo stuff. So, and I've had, quite a bit of time off as well since.
But you engineer a lot of other bands' records as well, right?
I used to do that quite a bit, and I really enjoyed it up until I didn't really enjoy it anymore. So I just kind of fell out of love with it, because it's something that like you can put so much effort into it, and uh, and also it's like hard to it's hard to charge a lot of money for it. So like you work insane hours, and then you get a really really disappointing little paycheck at the end. So yeah. So finally I was like, I'm probably not going to do this for a while, and my own things instead. So
We actually have a question here that we can do. Per says, is there a specific reason for choosing swamp ash for the body, besides that it's stunning beautiful with the sandblast finish? So I can comment on one thing there. When Per and I started talking about his signature guitar, basically Per said, I don't know, I love my gem, which is a basswood body, maple neck with a rosewood fingerboard. So that was like the magic formula we started with for the original Singularity. And we've carried that over to this. So it's still a basswood body, and then the ash top is for primarily for decorative reasons. Um, but I found it interesting and contradictory because you don't care like what you play, if that makes sense. Like your original signature guitar, we to keep the cost down, we had like the cheapest possible pickups, and it was like a low cost guitar, but you still played it, and you always sound awesome whatever you pick up.
yeah.
But at the same time, I know that you're very particular with like the end result. You do a lot of tweaking, and it has to be just right, and your dual choruses and delays
Yeah.
and stuff.
One
But
one
what's
one thing I was thinking about earlier in this discussions was that uh, uh, with gear, like what is the which pickup sounds best and which guitar is the best. For me, it's like which which gear causes me the least trouble. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And I used to only play stock guitars, and whatever pickups was on the guitar, like all the old Ibanez's I had back in the day, uh, and I pretty much never bothered trying out different pickups and changing stuff around. I just plugged the guitar in and I played, and maybe I was gravitating more to some guitars. For example, one of my gems, um, because that guitar gave me the least trouble. It just seemed to always work, always sound good, always have the right tone and the right sustain. Because if I plugged in another guitar, maybe I changed the EQ on the amp or whatever, or the gain on the boost pedal. Uh, but that guitar just sort of worked with less tweaking. Uh, um, so that's why when we talked about what kind of wood we wanted to use, I didn't know what that guitar had, what the specs were. I just knew that guitar was like the least amount of trouble. So let's go with that. And and these guitars that you made for me, they don't give me a lot of trouble. You know, I mean, they sound great. I know they sound incredible, but it just it's just something about everything with the true temperament and with the pickups and uh, that just it doesn't give me too much headache, and that's a testament to the success of of the guitars.
Yeah. I mean, this is what makes it interesting to be a guitar manufacturer because just like Pliny also explained about all the iterations of his guitars that he's played, there's one that is a clear favorite. And if someone took out calipers and started measuring, they wouldn't be able to like measure any differences between those guitars. And these same wood species, they've been they might have been made at different factories, but the same drawings. Maybe they bought the wood from different suppliers, but it's the same species of wood. Maybe one was harvested in the spring and the other in the winter or whatever. It's just, it's all these small intangible things. And I'm sure that an audience or a listener would never hear the difference between those two or three guitars on a recording or even sitting next to the person, but it will still be very meaningful for you when you pick the guitar up. You strum a chord and like feel how it vibrates and like this whatever the feedback loop between the instrument and your brain and fingers. I don't think you could ever measure the differences between the guitars, but they'll make you play differently.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I think, yeah, with you, Per, I don't think you've become like more more picky over the years, but I think Pliny for sure you've like evolved maybe. I don't know if that's the right word. I do remember in the early days you were like Per also like I don't care, but then it's been more and more
Yeah,
refined.
yeah. I haven't really gone as far as woods even. I think I've gone as far as pickups and like the configuration of the switching, which is more, I guess that's more ergonomic than tone. Um, and that's that's pretty much it. I think I just trusted your choice of woods from the beginning.
Yeah.
Um,
And on the like rig side, uh, lately uh, you used the Neural DSP Quad Cortex, which seems like an amazing piece of kit. Will that become like more than a live rig for you? Is that something that's going to make it like into the studio as well? So it's like a
um,
it's like a one-stop solution.
yeah, I'm not sure because my attitude to gear, I guess, kind of similar to Per with guitars, is I just want the least fuss possible.
Mm.
Um, so I mostly use software for recording because that even then that's like one less thing to plug into a wall outlet, one less on button to press, and like firmware to update. Um, so if I can, and like now that I don't mix my own music as well, as long as I can get something that's enjoyable to write with, it doesn't need a whole lot of variation. Um,
Right.
I mean, the quad cortex will definitely win for live because it's the smallest thing. And even It's also, I think, the best sounding thing that anyone makes. But even if it weren't, I'd probably still take it just because it's so small and has all the right inputs, outputs, MIDI, USB, for me to not need other stuff. So yeah, I mean, I could almost run a show just off a laptop using plugins for guitar, but I think I don't trust it that well.
But in terms of algorithms, can you do like the archetype Plini? Can that run like an equivalent on the Quad Cortex?
Yeah, it's not. I don't think it's in there yet, but it will be possible, and it should theoretically be exactly the same. Yeah.
That's very cool. I've got a question here. Jashik says, when the Plini Nectar model will be available to buy? Also, is it possible to buy the old signature? Well, Jashik, it went on sale on Friday, sold out, but it will come back in stock. We're making more, of course. And we're keeping the old Plini, the bolt-on as well in the assortment. So you will be able to buy both the bolt-on and the neck through. And same thing with the Singularity 7 and 8. They went on sale at the same time on Friday. We might have the odd one left in EU or US. I actually didn't check this morning, but I think they sold out. But we're getting more. Time flies when you're having fun. I think it's might be time to start wrapping up. Do you guys have any like questions to each other? Let you interview each other.
I want to say great job with the Plini plugin.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah. I think we might use it for the lead tones on the new Scar Symmetry album, actually.
Oh, that would make me very happy. I think that's, I guess, to segue back to our signature guitars, that's the thing that probably is the most exciting about having any sort of signature product, is hearing someone else make music with it. It's like, it almost makes me, I don't need to make music anymore because someone else is doing it on my behalf, and probably better and more interesting. So yeah, that's really cool.
But what I think I've asked you this before, but for the benefit of like the viewers here, what was the creative process for designing the Archetype Plini plugin?
I don't remember anymore, but I think narrowing down to a simple few features in order to be sort of like a complete rig, but without being too bloated in options. And then I named some pieces of real world equipment that I really like, and certain characteristics of different ones that for them to sort of make a Frankenstein software version of. And then they would send me plugins of the different components as they were made. So I think I got a drive pedal or maybe like an amp, like standalone plugin to tweak. And then they sent about 30 or 40 different cab impulse responses, which I went through and picked my favorite one and then tweaked the sort of EQ of it from there. And then they wrapped it into like a cab thing where you could move the mics around and change mics. Yeah, so I guess we went through sort of element by element to make sure each bit would function how I wanted it to. I know that it took A lot of effort on their part from a small instruction from me of like changing the way that the gain knob on the amp would interact with the guitar, so it would break up at a certain point and get really saturated at a different point. And I think they ended up hiring someone with a PhD in reverb design to design the reverb. And I think at the time it was using a new technology they had never done. So it was a lot of, I think there was a lot going on in the background for them while I was just sitting behind an email being like, can you make it wetter and can you make it cleaner? A similar process to what we have, I guess. I don't know where to get wood from or how to wind a pickup. And then I expect you to do it within minutes.
Per,
You're dropping out, so I can't hear you, Ola.
Have we lost Ola?
Yeah, I can hear you.
was
though.
my audio cutting out? My phone was ringing.
All right.
Sorry, so it
Now
picked
you're-
up the wireless headset. Sorry. I was saying, Per, have you been part of designing any other like audio type thing or something that makes sound aside from the guitar?
No.
Do you see the need to? Do you have the desire?
I've got some ideas. If the opportunity would arise to do something like Plini did with Neural, but I'm not sure anyone would be interested, or
I
gotta be
would.
for it.
I would.
And I really love the Neural stuff. Sometimes though, I wish I could have a plugin that didn't have too many options. I would have something that opens and there's like 1, 2, and 3, and there's like 3 options, and you press that and that sounds like that, and you press that and that sounds like that, and just like minimal tweaking possibilities. And that probably would turn most people off because they want to have all these shiny knobs and buttons and that do all these crazy things. But to have something that's just like it could be called the no trouble amp sim or something. I would love that. I really like. I mean, since I do some mixing and stuff, I really like plugins that have a really clean uh, like a graphical interface, and where there's not too many options. Like when you have where you have a compressor, for example, with only like peak reduction and gain, and there's 2 things, and you can't really do too much. And when when you turn the knobs, things happen. It just sounds good.
Yeah,
I love those kinds of processors.
yeah. There's I'll plug a YouTube channel called 5 Watt World, which is pretty cool. He's all about minimalist setups and how to make the most of your gear with minimum amount of gear. I don't think he's into like doing plugins and stuff. He's more like on the analog side, but it's the same thinking. So if there was a piece of equipment with just one knob that was magic, then that would be the ideal piece.
Yeah.
But it's pretty cool. Check it out, everyone.
Yeah, and they have a video about Strandberg that
Yes.
features both me and Plini.
Yes,
So there's
indeed.
that.
Really?
Yes. Yeah, he's made a lot of cool videos. But in let's take one last question before we close. And Stephanie says, can you repeat that? 5 Watt World. 5 Watt World. It's a weird thing to say. Last question. Rajarshi says, hi, while we're on the topic, and a recommendation for someone who primarily plays at home after work as to what effects or processors gear they could use without going for too much stuff.
Well, you know my answer.
Neural DSP archetype Plini and a Strandberg guitar.
Yeah.
I would happily have no other gear ever.
Yeah.
And an
I'm
interface, right?
upset with having a Strandberg and the neural stuff as well.
Yeah. I'm currently angry with my interface because I couldn't figure out how to get guitar and microphone through Skype.
Well, we'll crack it for
I've
the
been
next.
for
Yeah.
6 months or so. The whole thing of getting things to work during a stream.
Yeah.
But on this topic, I'm actually a little bit interested myself. So Per, you use OBS Studio?
Well, no. Right
Oh, you
now
don't know?
no. Right now I'm just streaming my video directly from my Logitech Potato Cam
Yeah.
to you, and for sound I'm actually using my HX Stomp, the Line 6, the small Helix. So I have that and my microphone plugged into my audio interface, and then I use a program called Voice Meter to route the audio to Skype.
Right.
So and it's been forever, I've been working forever to get this done, and I've downloaded all kinds of programs that enable you to route audio within your computer. I try to output my DAW, and because I wanted to use the neural stuff and play guitar through Cubase and have that output to the stream. I finally made it work with a plugin called Restream, but it added some insane latency. So, and you can't play guitar if you hear the sound a second later. But finally, I found, on the recommendation of Herman Lee, this voice meter thing. We
Nice.
actually did some. I did a stream last Friday with him on his Twitch channel, and we jammed a lot. And he had this really neat idea. So since things were streaming, from him out to his audience, I played backing tracks on my end, jammed on top of them, and then he jammed on top of that from his end. So he didn't have any latency. The audience didn't have any, didn't experience any latency. The only one who got a little bit latency was me. The return of Herman's guitar to my ears was a little bit late, but that was fine. I could still, sort of make out what he was playing, so we could sort of respond to each other. So I could jam for a bit, and then I stop playing, and he could take over, and we could go back and forth, and so that really worked well. We couldn't play together in real time, but the audience perceived it as being that.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Well, this is a tricky field to sort out. And what was the setup that we tried to get working on your side, Pliny?
Just a Rode mic, and I was trying to use the plug-in audio, and then I was trying to use just an Max Effects because I lent my Quad Cortex to Simon literally a few days ago and didn't get it back in time.
Right.
And I tested it on Zoom, and Zoom seemed to accept both channels like natively, but for whatever reason, Skype would only take the microphone, which was like the first output, and I haven't gotten smart enough to combine them yet. but in a few months I'll be there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tricky to like combine multiple audio and video sources like inside and then stream it. Uh, I'll say for anyone who's interested, we used uh, OBS in the early days, but I pretty quickly switched to Ecamm Live, which is great in many ways. It's confusing me in many ways, but a lot of things are super easy to do. And what we were supposed to be using to get hi-fi quality audio was super easy to use, but it was we had weird echoes and stuff this morning. We tried independently with the two of you to work out the technology. Um, but it failed for whatever reason when there was the three of us. Next time, we'll nail it. Well, any closing words from the two of you?
That's it.
Fair enough. All right. Thank you guys so much. It's been a pleasure to speak with you this
Thank you.
morning. And I hope everyone that was watching enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yes.
There you go. And stay tuned. Subscribe to this is broadcasting on Facebook. We're uploading to YouTube, so you can follow our Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, so on and so forth. There will eventually be an episode 19 of the Stranded live stream. So until then, thank you very much. Take care.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Goodbye.
guys. You beautiful
See
people.
ya.
Bye.